I love flying. I will never stop loving to fly.
Yeah.
But human beings, whether they're pilots or air traffic controllers, reduce the efficiency of the system.
Today, we're talking with Ben Marcus, aviation entrepreneur and co-founder of Up Partners. From co-founding Jet Aviva, one of the world's largest aircraft brokerages, to launching AirMap and pioneering the infrastructure of air mobility, Ben has been shaping the future of aviation and air mobility for decades.
How do we move people and goods in more efficient ways around the world? Why is it that we can't get all of those people up in the sky? Air traffic controllers sitting behind a radar screen, that's not going to scale to hundreds of thousands of simultaneous flights. The boxes in the airplanes should be talking to each other. The boxes should be talking with a central computer that's optimizing the flow of the traffic.
So describe, in the future, what could that potentially look like?
You see so many things from science fiction become reality. I think we're going to see that with air mobility as well.
Aviators, welcome to the Flight Club podcast. I'm your host, Jason Middleton. I'm a pilot, I'm an aviation entrepreneur, and a huge fan of the people that make up our diverse aviation community. Ben, thanks for coming on the show. I've been wanting to have you on for a long time. I know you had your sidekick and your partner, Cyrus, on, over a year ago. He was one of my first guests, so we had a lot of fun together.
Yeah, it was a fun interview.
Yeah, I figured I should probably have the really smart side of that partnership on the show.
Hopefully he doesn't watch this.
He won't. He doesn't know where to find it.
He's too busy.
Yeah. God, we've known each other for so long, I feel like.
Yeah.
We were kind of the young guys in the industry.
It's got to be 20 years, right?
Yeah, something like that. It's been a really long time. I think I met you when a mutual friend and client of ours, John Gilbert, bought an airplane.
Yeah.
And you guys delivered it.
Right.
And we had never really, I had no idea how to do anything like that. And like, you should talk to these guys. So you guys came in and you did this thing for us. And it was like, I think I'm like, I don't know if these guys are legit. I had to give you like a bag of cash, or like 20 grand in cash or something to get the. And
that was one of the first first Phenom 100s that we brought back from Brazil.
Yeah.
And I remember flying that back with John. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. And you guys had to land in some field in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah, I typically would land in Palmas, which is in the middle of the country on the way out of Brazil.
Yeah.
I remember taking John there and he was like, "Where's this place? Like, this is crazy." We had such heavy rain on the approach that the radios went all crackly.
You just flying around Brazil and a Phenom 100 with a bag of cash.
Exactly.
What could go wrong? Oh my God. Yeah. And you guys, and that was when you guys were at Jet Aviva, I thought you guys had such an innovative thing that you were doing different, right? You're buying and selling airplanes for people, but you're also mentoring. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, we were really pleased with that. I mean, we were able to help a lot of propeller airplane pilots transition to jet flying and do so safely. I mean, to date, even now, more than 20 years later, our clients have like a flawless safety record. Very rewarding.
You're very statistical, technical, type people. And, when you have these owner operators that operate single pilot jets, the safety record's really good.
Yeah.
It's better than the Proflone. If you look at the stats.
It is. Yet
they can't get insured. It's
very strange. I mean, aviation insurance, is not actuarial. It's not statistically driven. It's very market driven. Yeah. What can I charge this year because the other underwriters are charging such and such? What do I need to charge to be competitive?
Yeah.
Rather than what's the right amount to charge? And
right. Yeah. And that's so bizarre, right? You would think they would be all data driven.
They should be. And I hope that's a change that we see.
Yeah. Do you think they'll change? I don't know.
They might. I mean, I think that the pilot community is open to it. The pilots who care about safety are very happy to share their data about how they're performing.
Yeah. And
I think those people should be rewarded.
I had Dexter Holland on from The Offspring, and he's kind of your hardcore aviator. He's an amateur. He's not a professional, but he is a professional. He's got an ATP. He goes to training every 6 months. He flies very regularly, at least 2-3 times a month. He really does it right. And I think that's more common for, that part of the aviation community, right? These guys that really do it right.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that are flying around single pilot in jets that aren't taking it seriously.
Totally. No, you have to perform at an ATP level every year when you go get your recurrent training.
Yeah.
So people get washed out pretty quickly if they can't perform.
Yeah, we were rewriting our fleet policy at Silver Air, and it's a big policy, and we got 30 airplanes on our fleet policy, and so it's a meaningful number when we shop it every year, right? And I had we had a bunch of underwriters we're taking meetings all week with underwriters, and they come in and it's almost like a contentious conversation with these underwriters. How do you do this? How do you do that? Tell me about this. And so they're grilling us on these things, and I finally had enough of it. I'm like, do you have any questions for us? I'm like, I have some questions for you guys.
I love it.
And I'm like, how do you guys make underwriting decisions? And they're like, they didn't know.
Right.
It was bizarre. And I'm like, how do you guys take, for example, if you have a single pilot operation with a guy that's got an ATP and he flies on a regular basis, but he's not a professional pilot, quote unquote. And they're like, well, that's just a more dangerous operation. I'm like, based on what? Like, where's your data coming from? And they couldn't answer the question.
Yeah.
It really kind of put them off, actually.
Yeah. We did a bunch of analysis on aircraft accidents for single pilot, owner flown, and for crewed pilots. This was many, many years ago when we were kicking off the Citation Jet Pilots Organization. Mm. And we wanted to provide some evidence-based training to these jet owner pilots. Yeah. What we found was, like you said, at that time, and I think still true to today, is that the owner-flown single-pilot jets were safer than the two-pilot professional crews. Yeah. I think the reason is mostly because professional crews feel like they have to perform the mission, even if the weather's bad, even if they're tired, whatever. But an owner pilot can say, you know what, I can go tomorrow. Yeah. I don't need to go right now. And but most of the accidents we found were caused by unstabilized approaches. So 50% plus of single-pilot jet accidents were on landing, and more than half of those were from unstabilized approaches. So it was a pretty simple fix, just to teach stabilized approach criteria. What do you do if you get to 500 feet and you're not stable? Yeah. Go around, no questions, and do it again.
That's the topic of the day right now on the aviation safety circles, right? First of all, maintaining a stabilized approach, and then going around if you're not. And I had Andy Day on from Wyvern, and he gave me some pretty shocking statistics. The first one was 78% of aviation accidents would have been avoided by with a go-around. Yeah. 78%.
Incredible. Isn't
that insane? Yeah. And the more shocking data he gave me was this is from FOQA data. For our audience that doesn't know what FOQA is, it's basically like it records everything that goes on in an airplane, and it sends it to a database. And so it's just a raw data where, this airplane was going this speed at this altitude in this configuration, and it tells you if you're stable or not. And it's like 95% of unstable approaches descend to a landing.
Wow.
Like that blew me away when I heard that number. So I think that is the key for aviation safety. It's like a low-hanging fruit that we really could, if we can really get aviators to buy into it. Yeah. Our company has a policy of we don't even know about go-rounds anymore. So we used to say, hey, if you have a go-round, it's cool. Just tell us, right? Let us know. And we found that people don't want to tell the chief pilot they did a go-around. It's like, okay, great. There's no reporting. It's a normal event. Go around, no problem. Land, we never even know about it. Because that was one of the questions the insurance company asked me. How many times did you guys have to go around last year? And I'm like, I have no idea. And I'm like, well, why are you asking me that question too? It was a really interesting, they don't know this information. Right?
When I was a young flight instructor, 18, 19-year-old flight instructor teaching people how to fly, I always taught them, when you start the approach, plan for a go-around. And if everything's perfect, then land.
Right.
And I think we just need to kind of remind ourselves of that as we get into bigger jets too, that every approach should be started with a go-around in mind, and things are good, you land.
I actually had to do a go-around pretty recently. I was a pilot monitoring, and we were in a G550, and we got down to minimums at Van Nuys. It was good visibility, but a really dense layer. And we got down to minimums, and we had nothing, right? So I called go-around, and we went around, and I wasn't ready for it, to be totally transparent about it and honest. I'm like, oh my God, we're going around actually right now, and IMC conditions, and in a very fast, big, complex airplane, and I hadn't planned. Luckily we had briefed it, but heading altitude, all that stuff. But I was definitely behind the airplane.
Right.
And we had to I asked the captain, like, I'm going to get a delayed vector so I can get the box set up for the next approach. It worked out great, but we just never do it. And so one of the other things we've also done, we're testing a pilot program right now where we're encouraging the crews to actually do a go when they're on an empty position leg somewhere, just go do a go around.
That's cool.
Do it in a non-complex airspace if you can, but if you got some time, go practice a go around.
I love it.
Fly the executed missed approach procedure and all that stuff. So we're starting to get some feedback on it right now. It seems like it's pretty cool.
Very progressive of you. I like it.
Trying to, well, I've been doing a lot of work with Wyvern. I'm doing a lot of consulting for them. I'm speaking for them on at MBAA this year, and people often ask me, "What's the most important thing in your company?" And I always tell them, financial performance is the most important thing. And like, well, safety's not. I'm like, well, without financial performance, you can't operate safely. You just can't. It's too, when you have an operation that is like on the verge of financial troubles, they do stupid things like fly missions they shouldn't fly.
Yeah.
Make pilots fly, longer duty days, and they just don't make good decisions. Yeah. So, I'm really learning a lot, through this process and getting more into that environment. I was just out at the Business Aviation Safety Summit last in the spring. That was really cool. A lot of good speakers out there. So yeah, it's been fun.
Cool.
Speaking of leadership, you're now kind of like when we started, Ben, we were both young guys, entrepreneurial, trying to get our businesses going, and now we're kind of becoming the older dudes in the business, and we're thought of as business leaders now. And like, how are you taking on that responsibility for yourself, and how's that driving your career?
I take a pretty pragmatic approach to that. I think every day you just have to do your best, to set an example. And in our case, we do that by partnering with great entrepreneurs, investing in amazing companies that are going to make a better world. But I think, for each of us, it's a matter of living our true selves and taking care of those that are coming up alongside us and helping them succeed. I
feel the same way. I mean, I feel as I mature, I really find myself wanting to be more collaborative and more open and really, when I started my business, it was like competition, right? It was like, I'm going to fight and everyone around me, they're the enemy, right? And I don't feel like that anymore. I'm really good friends with a lot of my competitors now. And I think out of those relationships, things just get better.
Totally.
Collaboration and,
It's a big world. There's a lot of opportunity for everybody.
100%. Yeah. And it's a very small industry. It's a small industry in a big world.
Yeah.
But there's always, you've proven there's like always ways to innovate and new things to do in this industry that people hadn't thought of before. Right. And I think it's probably accelerating.
Yeah. I get bored easily. So I know I love what I do. I love what I did 25 years ago, as a young flight instructor. I still love teaching people how to fly, although I don't do it as much as I would like to. But I always want to try something else. And so, having the opportunity to build businesses in this space, I do something for 5, 6, 7 years, and then I try something new.
Yeah.
Typically my pattern.
That's great. I feel like I've always kind of thought of you as this sort of like super aviation nerd, but also romantic. You have this romantic connection with aviation, right? It's like a passion and a feeling, and then like this technical curiosity, in the space. That's always kind of how I've, thought about you. And you've kind of proven that throughout your career, and the things you've done.
Aviation is so ripe with opportunities for learning. There's just so much you can do. You can fly different types of aircraft, starting with airplanes, now helicopters and gliders and seaplanes and all sorts of jets. And I haven't done hot air balloons yet, but that would be really fun. And you can go different places. You can fly domestically. You can go to Europe or any other continent. And, the dream is to be able to teleport yourself basically from one place to another on Earth, to places that you would never imagine exploring if it wasn't for your ability to fly there.
Yeah.
It's endless.
And they're just going places and like transporting yourself somewhere else. It's going to be pretty interesting. Tell me about, you've been kind of a thought leader in the space for a long time. And like, where does that stem from? Is that like a young age? Were you always curious about innovation and doing things from a young age?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up right next to the Santa Monica Airport. My parents still live in the same house that I was born in, and that's 100 yards from the runway at Santa Monica Airport.
Are they one of the people complaining, Ben?
No, they're not. I think they would be pretty ambivalent if it wasn't for me, but because of me, they're supportive of aviation and then how that inspires kids to study science and technology. And anyway, so I grew up as a 3-year-old, standing by the chain link fence watching airplanes at Santa Monica Airport, and had the opportunity to take my first flying lesson when I was 10 years old. And I'm just as enthralled with it as ever. But yeah, I mean, Cyrus and I were building model airplanes at 12, 13 years old. Yeah. We would design our own balsa wing flying wings and tape quarters on them different places to figure out the weight and balance and throw them off the hill at the park. And
oh my God, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Was that at Santa Monica? You did your first flight there?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
And did you do all your primary training there?
Mm-hmm.
What school did you go to?
So my very first flying lesson was in November of 1992. Okay. It was at California Aviation, which went bankrupt the month after I took my first flying lesson. Okay. Then in January, I think January of 1993, I started at Justice Aviation. Mm-hmm. And Joe Justice.
Yeah. I remember Joe.
Great guy. I still see him every couple months.
He's still around?
Yeah. Yeah. So I learned to fly at Justice Aviation. Yeah. I became a flight instructor at Justice Aviation. On summers when I was back from college, I would teach there. Yeah. And still very close with many of the other people that were instructors there during those years. It's a great community.
That's cool. Yeah. That's really cool. I learned to fly in Santa Monica.
What's cool?
Flyers, American Flyers, yeah. Just down the ramp. When I got into it, I wanted to do the 141 path and just like get it done. Mm-hmm. Just go. I didn't grow up like you, and aviation was never even a thought for me until late into my 20s. When I started flying, that's when the passion kicked in. Mm-hmm. I just didn't even know about it.
Right.
My dad was a cop in Bakersfield.
Right.
So, it was just never introduced to me. So
I think exposing people to that is one of the key things we can all do as a community. Relatively few people know that careers in aviation are even an option for them. Yeah. And so really opening the doors to the community, bringing young people in to show them what's possible. You see that spark, every time I bring a young person to my hangar and they're like, wow, this is so cool. Yeah. That they're going off and thinking about it. So
it's like kids they think it's like, I don't know if it's too out of reach. Maybe it's like to learn how to fly an airplane seems really daunting when you're a young kid, but I've had more of my friends. I'm now at the age where my kids are all, getting older and their friends are in their, late teens, early 20s. And I've had probably in the last couple of years, probably 6 of my friends bring their kids in to just talk to me about aviation. And one of them just got his commercial out of Camarillo. So,
what I'm really excited about now is electric training airplanes. So the cost of learn to fly is coming down so dramatically.
Yep.
You don't need to consume aviation gasoline anymore.
Yep.
You just electricity. And, instead of $100 an hour to operate a 172, it's like $12 an hour.
I know. Isn't that crazy? And it's more reliable.
Yeah.
The batteries, the electric motor is not going to fail.
Yeah.
The training's changed a lot too. Like the airplanes are using, I guess you don't have to do a retractable landing gear now.
Right.
Like there's a bunch of differences.
For the commercial.
Yeah, for the commercial, yeah. So that passion side of it, right? You got into, which I'm not a huge fan of, and I know you love this, but aerobatic flying.
Love aerobatics.
Dude, I know. I don't know how you guys do it or why you do it, but it just scares me. Even just watching it just scares me.
Yeah, Cyrus and I started with aerobatics when we were 18. Justice had a decathlon there.
Oh, yeah.
And so we started learning
Was that blue? Was it blue?
Yeah.
I remember it.
The blue and white one?
Yeah, I remember that.
So we did some very basic aerobatic training then, and I had the opportunity to start teaching a little bit of that back then. But it really wasn't until 2008 or 9, Cyrus and I bought a Pitts, and we started competing, and that was amazing. We gave up after a few years, and then in 2021, I bought a Game Bird, which is this new super high performance aerobatic airplane built in Bentonville, Arkansas. Uh-huh. And that's just been an absolute blast.
Yeah.
I've flown it 400 hours now.
Really?
in the last 4 years, and learned so much more than I ever imagined. Formation aerobatics and all sorts of gyroscopic tumbling and things. It's quite a cool airplane.
How often are you flying it?
I try a few times a week.
Yeah.
It's a little bit tough with my daughter now, 7 years old. I want to spend time with her. So,
yeah.
Do I want to drop her off at school or do I want to go fly my airplanes? But I
drop her up at school, then go fly airplanes.
I also have to work.
Blow off work. Cyrus was telling me a story about him like almost auguring that thing at Pitts, I think it was. And it kind of freaked him out.
Yeah.
Know? Is that when he kind of like went away from it and you kind of went all out, I'm going to go buy a game bird?
Well, no, we sold the Pitts way before I bought the game bird, like 10 years before that.
Oh, okay.
So we were without aerobatics for about 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Cyrus was scared off by that experience. Although he went back out and flew more. I think the key to safe aerobatic flying is, first of all, don't do maneuvers you haven't already practiced with a competent instructor.
Yeah.
Second, fly a very safe airplane. Make sure it's maintained properly and all that. And then third, and perhaps even most important, is always fly with a lot of altitude beneath you.
Yeah.
Because altitude can fix any problem.
You've trained with Sean Tucker.
A lot. Yeah.
How's that?
He's a great mentor. He's an amazing human being. Sean is so full of energy.
Yeah.
So smart, knows aerobatics better than anybody. He's not just a showman. He's actually a really great teacher. And just mentor, because aerobatics is both a physically and emotionally draining activity.
I bet, yeah.
And a lot of people do die doing aerobatics.
Yeah.
So it's challenging to stay in it for a long period of time. And Sean has been a really extraordinary coach for me.
When you see that guy, you can just tell he's like an aerobatic pilot. He's just got so much energy, and he kind of his personality matches his flying style. You know,
he's so inspiring. I think Sean, don't I hope you don't mind. I think he's 73 or 74 years old now, and he just went back into competition flying. He's flying
really?
in.
He did?
Yeah, he just has been flying in intermediate level, not even unlimited. He's flying intermediate competitions in the game bird.
Wow.
I saw he was just at the Canadian Nationals. So he's just
no kidding. Wow.
Never stopping.
Do you think you'll ever do any like the Red Bull racing or any of that kind of stuff?
No, that's not for me. I'm always flying above 3,000 AGL. Three mistakes worth of altitude beneath me.
Yeah, I watched. You probably saw it on social media. I don't know what race it was, but one of those airplanes hit the water.
Yeah,
and
kept flying.
Like, that guy is so lucky.
So lucky. So
lucky. Like, they're going so fast. I mean, just a tiny little nick in the water is a huge amount of drag. I was shocked. He's just a good pilot, I guess.
Good instincts.
Yeah, really good instincts. Wow. When you first started flying, you had some challenges with, which I didn't know until talking to you the other day, you had some challenges with getting an aviation medical.
Right.
And that's been kind of a constant in your career.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was born with a hereditary eye condition called ocular albinism. Mm-hmm. It's relatively rare. I think there's about 35,000 Americans that have this. And essentially it means that as I was developing before I was born, my retinas didn't get as much pigment as they're supposed to get. That's the word albinism, like albino.
Right.
And that lack of pigment leads to underdevelopment of the retina.
Okay.
And that leads, or that causes relatively poor visual acuity. So instead of having 20/20 vision, I have 20/40 vision, even with glasses, because glasses only correct the shape of your lens on the front of your eye. They can't correct something wrong with the retina at the back of your eye.
That's collecting the light.
Correct.
Right.
So yeah, I knew I had defective vision my whole life. And I also knew I was passionate about aviation, and you'd think those two don't really go hand in hand very well.
Yeah.
So I applied for my first medical certificate when I was 14 years old, knowing that it would probably take some time to go through the special issuance process. So I wanted to start 2 years before I was 16 when I could solo.
Yeah.
Eventually I did get a special issuance medical certificate and for a third class medical.
Okay.
And learned to fly and became a flight instructor. Luckily, in 1997, the federal aviation regulations changed such that somebody with a third-class medical can be a flight instructor.
Yeah, you can hold a commercial and also be a flight instructor, right?
That's right, yeah. So I've been able to teach people to fly on a third-class medical certificate. The other thing you can do on a third-class medical certificate is exercise private pilot privileges. And one of the private pilot privileges is to demonstrate aircraft as an aircraft salesman.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah. So I did a lot of that too.
No way. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So,
So do you hold a commercial though?
I have an ATP.
You have an ATP? Okay.
Yeah. But I can't exercise ATP privileges
Got it.
without a first class medical.
Right.
But I can exercise the flight instructor privileges. So I've done everything I can. I've really exercised the full extent of the third class medical as a flight instructor, even in single pilot jets, teaching people to fly single pilot jets, and as an aircraft salesman.
Yeah. I mean, it's so frustrating. I like, my wife and I are both really into health and wellness and exercise and diet, and really, I go to the doctor every 6 months and get blood. And every time I go in and get my aviation medical, it's just a joke. I'm like, are you guys kidding me? Like this, how can you tell the health of a pilot with this ridiculous thing you're doing with us?
Yeah.
And it's really not about health. It's just some
boxes.
doctor in the 50s came up with this because that's what they knew. And like, okay, here.
Yeah.
And the problem with it, when you fill all those things out, if you mark a yes on there, you're done.
Right.
Like it's going to be a problem.
Right.
So, you have pilots, and, I'm going to say this in the show. I've said it before, and people, comment a lot of negative comments on this, but people lie on their medicals. They have to.
Yeah.
They're either not diagnosed, they're lying about it. The system is set up.
The system's broken.
It's set up to really put unhealthy pilots in the cockpit. You can have diabetes, pass your medical. You can have heart conditions that don't show up on an EKG. You can have blockages. You can have all kinds of stuff that are not going to show up in a medical, but they will show up with modern techniques,
right? Blood
work and, some modern scanning device. I get blood work every 6 months, and the doctor doesn't even look at my body anymore. He just looks at my data. He looks at the data,
right? And
he tells me exactly what I need to stop doing, and what I need to do more of. And for the life of me, I don't understand why the FAA hasn't revamped the whole AME process. And then the bigger problem, I think, is when something does come up and you either get it fixed or you can demonstrate your ability, which is what you're experiencing, right? It's almost impossible.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing is that the FAA does have a special issuance and a statement of demonstrated ability process. So even if you don't meet the letter of the regulation, it's possible to still obtain a medical certificate, but it takes a lot of time. And there are certain conditions that are excluded from that process. So you talk about a lot of pilots that lie in order to get a medical, and that's not great. But I think conversely, there's a lot of people who actually have medical conditions that are suitable for flying and are excluded. Mm-hmm. I mean, in my case, I think if you speak with just about anybody who's flown with me, they'll tell you that they didn't notice any deficiency in my vision. I don't have any problem seeing other airplanes. I don't have any problem seeing the runway when I land, whatever.
Right, lights, colors, all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. Despite that, and despite passing some 20 plus odd FAA check rides on their first attempt for all kinds of type ratings and whatever, I've never even been afforded a medical flight test opportunity with the FAA.
What are they telling you? Like, why is that? Why aren't they giving you
They just say that they don't do medical flight tests for defective visual acuity. They do it for color blindness. So you can go and demonstrate, that you can see what a green light is and a red light is from the light gun at the control tower.
Yeah.
But for mine, which is defective visual acuity, they don't do medical flight tests for that, which is a shame because I think that there's probably a lot of other pilots out there like me that could demonstrate that despite having defective visual acuity, they can operate at an ATP level.
We had a pilot that tore a retina. He tore his retina and had it, it healed, but he lost his medical for 6 months, and he had to do a medical flight check, and he wasn't going to get it back until he did that.
Right. Well, I'm glad they let him do that. That's great.
Yeah. I'm surprised that they haven't let you do that. That sucks.
Maybe things will change, but I have no regrets. I'm very thrilled with the career I've been able to pursue, and
you've done
I have a lot of fun.
Good job at navigating that.
Yeah.
There's a new Surgeon General at the FAA, Susan Northrup. I'm pretty optimistic. I've watched a lot of things she's said. I think she's going to make some good changes.
That's great.
Yeah.
It just takes will, right? And I mean, this is the hard thing in any government agency, bureaucracy, political environment. You need to have somebody who is willing to stick their neck out there a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's good when there's evidence to back up their position that can help them, get initiatives through.
Yeah.
But hopefully she has the will to make things better.
That things like males right now, GLP-1 meds are huge, right? These Moderna, all these like medicines people are taking for weight loss. I'd rather have a pilot on that than be 300 pounds,
Right.
to be honest, right? And the data shows that it's much healthier if they are, leaner than larger, even if they're on the GLP. And I don't think they're approved by the FAA. I mean, the whole mental health side
Huge
of it
deal.
too.
Huge
I think, there's so much work that needs to be done. So I'm optimistic that there'll be some positive changes in the future, but let's get to the fun stuff.
All right, let's do it.
So I want to know the future of air mobility, Ben. I want you to describe to me what it's going to look like. Are we going to be able to get on our phone someday and go, I want to go from Santa Barbara to Santa Monica, or I want to go from Orange County to Beverly Hills. Can I send something? Can I do an app? Boom, send for my thing, have the thing land, get in it, and fly somewhere and land. Is that going to happen?
I believe it will. How long is another question.
Yeah.
But you see so many things from science fiction become reality. And I think we're going to see that with air mobility as well. Growing up in LA, having the privilege of flying over LA as a kid, I was always struck by how millions of people were stuck in traffic on the freeways beneath me. And yet I was lucky enough to be in the sky with just a handful of other people.
Yeah.
And so I always ask the question, like, why is it that we can't get all of those people up in the sky, going from a 2-dimensional transportation surface to 3-dimensional?
Right.
And so I actually wrote a business plan back in 2003 to start an airline to connect all of the Southern California airports together with Cessna Caravans.
Oh.
At the time, I did a whole bunch of operational analysis and stuff, and I figured out that we could move about 5,000 people a day to work between airports close to where they lived and airports close to where they worked, with about 190 Cessna Caravans. 190 new airplanes flying over LA was like inconceivable.
Yeah.
You're increasing the density of the traffic so dramatically.
Right.
It was like, this is not going to work. Like if it's VFR, if it's visual flight rules, you're not going to be able to see airplanes sufficiently well for see and avoid, because there are just going to be too many of them.
Right.
And if it's a cloudy day, there's no way that controllers could manage that many new airplanes, sequencing them for approaches and all that.
Yeah.
So I kind of gave up the idea. But now with electric vertical aircraft coming, we really have the potential for, hundreds of thousands of people to simultaneously be flying over Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I think the key breakthrough is the air traffic management system, and that's why I started AirMap.
When the early days of AirMap, that's what you guys were doing, working on that network.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was very clear that air traffic controllers sitting behind a radar screen talking on an AM radio, that's not going to scale to hundreds of thousands of simultaneous flights.
Right.
And so we needed a digital automated system that could manage that volume of traffic. Finally, now I started that in 2015. Now, 2025, we just finally got the notice of proposed rulemaking from the FAA a month ago for beyond visual line of sight drone operations. So it's happening, but a little 10 years too late.
So describe, like, in the future, or whatever it is, 10, 20 years in the future, what could that potentially look like? Just use LA as an example.
So
think of it like the user experience. Like I'm your customer, and you're explaining this new thing that you just built.
So I'll start with the hopes and dreams version, and then I'll kind of dial it back to the more pragmatic thing in a shorter period of time. But the hopes and dreams version of this is, think of it like an air scooter. You have your phone, you say, I need to get picked up here, and I'm going to Orange County. The air scooter lands right in front of you on the street. You jump in.
On the street?
Yeah. One seat, you get in your one seat air scooter. It takes off and it flies you where you need to go, lands, you get out, you go. And there are these single place electric vertical aircraft that are now being developed that have a very small footprint, basically the size of a single parking space.
Yeah.
So it's totally conceivable this could land, on the street in a parking space.
Yeah.
Of course, the reason why I say it's a hopes and dreams version is you need a lot of public acceptance for something like that. All of a sudden you're driving down Rodeo Drive and the air scooter lands in front of you. That's going to take a while.
Yeah.
So The sort of pared back version of that's closer at hand, I think, is electric vertical aviation from designated vertiports.
Yeah.
Vertiports will be new infrastructure that are built, for example, on the roof of parking garages, some high-rise buildings and things like that, where you will board one of these aircraft with 3 or 4 other people. Think of it like a Uber pool where you're sharing it with other people you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's taking off and it's flying you to another vertiport somewhere in the region.
Yeah.
It's probably going to start with airports. I think we're going to see a lot of general aviation airports as vertiports.
Yeah.
Because building new infrastructure takes a long time. But eventually, I think metropolis communities like LA will be connected by vertiports that are outside of airports as well.
That is the dream, man. That seems, you could have your vertiport in every neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going to go to work, walk to the vertiport. Your vehicle picks you up, takes you where you're going to go. To me, that's just amazing. That would be so cool.
It's going to happen.
Do you think the noise technology, do you think they're going to get better with the sound of the drones?
Yeah, so these are very quiet aircraft. Joby Aviation has already published videos and NASA has published papers about this. The noise level is way quieter than any helicopter or airplane.
Yeah.
And it's because it's electric.
Yeah.
It's because the propulsion is distributed. So you don't just have one engine, you have a bunch of engines. And the rotor design technology is such that you have lower RPM and bigger blades that move a lot more air with fewer rotations. So the velocity of the air coming through the propulsion system is much less, and that is what reduces the noise.
What does the pilotless version look like for the public? Like, I'm about to get on the thing that's going to take me into the air with no pilot on board.
It will come. People need to get comfortable with that. I think that people will get comfortable with it for a 4 or 5 seat, passenger aircraft.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen as soon for airliners, for example. A 300-seat airliner with no pilots up front, I think, is a long, long way off. But, I've been using Waymo a lot recently. Waymo is this self-driving car. It's an amazing service.
Isn't it amazing?
It's so great. I put my parents in it. My dad's turning 80 next week. They love it. They don't mind that there's no driver.
Yeah.
I think,
really?
Yeah. I think the first time somebody gets in the thing, they're a little bit like, oh, I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah.
But after it delivers you to your destination the first time, you're like, this is great.
Yeah.
It works great. And I don't have to talk to somebody. The driver doesn't smell. Perfect.
Well, it was the first time I saw the Waymo, I was at Phoenix Airport and I walked out and there was more Waymos. There was every other car was a Waymo.
Yeah.
It's completely adopted in certain areas.
Yeah. A lot of times in San Francisco, you come to a 4-way stop and there's two Waymos and 2 other cars.
Yeah. It's crazy. Well, back to the pilotless aerial vehicles. I have a little DJI drone. It's called the Mavic 4 Pro. It's a really high tech drone that we do a lot of filming with it. And I was the thing, you could fly the thing way off and then turn the remote off and it will come and land within inches of where it took off.
Yeah.
It's so precise. And it's got sensors on it.
Yeah.
And, if you land at night, it turns a light on so the sensors can see better. It's so precise. And every time, all the time, it's never, it flies itself way better than I could ever fly it.
Totally.
And
isn't that true for every autopilot you use in Gulf?
This is true. This is true. And I think that it's funny, the flying public, I don't know how, I don't know how much they know about the automation in aircraft anyways. The pilots really aren't, once the airplane's to the runway and in the air, it's capable of doing everything.
Yeah.
We don't need to do.
And this isn't new. 747s were doing auto land in the 70s.
Right. If you put a flight plan in the box and with all your climbs and everything, if you got cleared from takeoff to your whole flight plan, the airplane could literally fly from the runway to the next runway without any pilot input.
Yeah. I love flying. I will never stop loving to fly.
Yeah.
But human beings, whether they're pilots or air traffic controllers, reduce the efficiency of the system.
Yeah.
And so if we can figure out safe ways to adopt more automation, the boxes in the airplanes should be talking to each other.
Yep.
The boxes should be talking with a central computer that's optimizing the flow of the traffic. You know, the fact that we have to have an air traffic controller say turn left, turn right, climb, descend, cleared. It's like it's the killer of efficiency.
Yes, it is.
And in many times safety too, because the pilots misunderstand the instructions.
You have humans involved, which is the first problem. And then you have, you know, sometimes the radios aren't great. It's loud in airplanes. You know, the air traffic controllers like to talk really fast. That's their thing. And, you know, you miss calls all the time and you misinterpret. And so I think it's the other thing too about the air traffic control system. And I've been kind of talking about this a little bit on the podcast. It's so antiquated, and not only in terms of how it's staffed, but like if you think about air traffic control system, you have your local air traffic control, tower, ground, and then you have your departure arrival, right? The little bigger airspace. And then you have your centers. And these are all located in different areas. Mm-hmm. They're people. And the reason I'm like, why is that? It's so bizarre to me. And when you think of it, it's that way because that's how far the radios can reach.
Right.
That's like
when the system was first developed, we didn't have satellite communication.
We have to have an Albuquerque center, and we have to have a Denver center, we have to have a Kansas City center, and because that's how far radios can go. And we haven't had that limitation for many, many years. Yeah, we're still using it.
Did you know that in the very early days of air traffic control radio, air traffic controllers communicated with pilots over AM radio stations that every normal person would listen to?
Really?
Yeah, and so like the reason why you hear, you listen to KNX 1070, like they identify the station. That's also for navigation, because the way that the pilots would navigate to a station and to identify the station they're navigating to was to listen for that identifier.
I've been flying that long where they're still using
ADF.
Yeah, NDBs. Even data link technology now that we're using, half the country's using CPDLC, half is not, right. And it's weird. It's just when you fly across the country right now, you're talking on the radio. Sometimes you're getting clearances from your box, from the CPDLC data link. And I mean, I guess they're trying to work on it. They're trying to get there, right? And they're rolling it out. It definitely needs...
It takes time for all the airplanes to get the equipment, and it's expensive for some airplanes.
I think that it's all going to be, like the iPads, the technology with what they're doing, for flight.
Yeah.
I mean, that company is just, they're doing amazing things.
I've been using Starlink in airplanes I've been flying recently. Yeah. Not even Starlink installed in the airplane, but just put it in the window of the airplane.
Yeah.
And I'm getting, bandwidth, streaming video way better than my internet at home. And so if we can have reliable, persistent internet connectivity in airplanes, the way that we communicate is going to be so different.
So I just bought one of those systems to test out in an airplane. I bought a little Starlink Mini with a battery, and I gave it to one of our crews to go in a CJ to just go fly around with it and see how it works. So did you put it on a side window?
Put it on a side window. I think it works best if you're in the northern hemisphere, if it faces north.
Okay. Oh, north. Okay.
Yeah. I found the most success with the antenna pointed north.
Yeah. I had a conversation recently with our director of maintenance about, I was flying a G550 the other day and the Starlink system went out, which is like basically an emergency in a Gulfstream. Internet's out, passengers are really upset. And we landed and we shut the airplane down, rebooted everything, and it came back on. And I'm like, what happened was we had some sort of power anomaly and it load shedded some of the galley, the oven specifically. And they had the Starlink system
on the galley circuit
wired to the oven galley. Like, why on earth would you guys do that? That doesn't make any sense. And the STC, we talked to the STC people to see if we could change that to put it on like a essential bus, right? And they said no, because it's non-essential equipment. We want it to shed. Mm-hmm. Like, well, if I'm over the North Atlantic in the middle of winter and I have an electrical problem and I'm diverting somewhere, I want to be able to talk to somebody through that. I can FaceTime my mechanic.
Totally.
Yet they have it wired into the galley.
Yeah.
So we're working on having it rewired. I don't know.
Does it even draw that much power?
No, like barely draws power at all. They could easily wire that into a more, essential type bus.
Yeah.
Do you think that the government, kind of circling back to our network of Uber's in the sky, whatever you're going to call it when you build it. I'm sure you're going to start this company when it comes out. Is it going to be like, do you think that industry will run the network and how it works? Or do you think the government FAA is going to have to kind of run the network? Because that'll slow things down to a standstill if that has to happen.
Yeah, as it stands, the current concept is that industry provides the services and the FAA performs a regulatory function, which is to oversee that network to make sure that it's performant and compliant with the regulations. But the actual services should be delivered by industry.
You guys invest in one of these single passenger.
We're not invested in the single passenger electric vertical aircraft company. Cyrus is on the board of that company. It's called Pivotal.
Pivotal, yes.
That has basically one investor, so we didn't have an opportunity to invest in it in the first place. But really cool company. They're building amazing machines and starting to sell them to individuals that have ranches and open space to go fly on. They're basically ultralights. They're under the ultralight rules.
Oh, they are.
But they're also now being used by paramedic organizations, so they can move a paramedic to the scene of a cardiac arrest or a stroke and get a first responder there quickly before a ground ambulance can get there.
No kidding.
So
that's already happening?
That's starting. Yeah, they're doing some pilot programs.
No way.
With that.
Have you flown that thing?
No, I haven't flown it.
Why not?
I just haven't done the training. I think it's just a day of training. I just haven't had a chance, but I would love to. It'd be super fun.
Yeah.
We are invested in another electric vertical aircraft company called Beta Technologies.
Yeah, I know Beta. Yep.
And we love that company. It's sort of the lesser known of the three major electric vertical aircraft companies, Joby, Archer, and Beta.
Yeah.
Joby and Archer are public companies. That's why most people know about them.
Yeah.
And Beta is still a private company, but with fantastic investors like Amazon and Fidelity and TPG and others. We really like Beta because they've taken a logistics first approach rather than passengers.
Okay.
So if you're moving goods, you don't need to land right in the middle of cities.
Right.
You don't need to build those vertiports.
And that Beta is a vertical takeoff. It'll do both, right? It'll land on a traditional runway or a vertical.
That's right. They have two versions. They have a vertical version and a conventional takeoff and landing version. So yeah, I think that they have a really great shot of getting to market quickly for logistics companies. Like UPS is a customer, the Army, the Air Force are customers. So.
And you guys flew that thing like across the country already, right? It's flown like real missions.
They actually landed at Santa Monica Airport on their first coast to coast. The company's based in Burlington, Vermont. Yeah. And they flew all the way out to Santa Monica. So
nice.
It's super cool. Yeah, it's great.
One of the things you and I talked about, you said something really interesting. Physical AI is like a big part of this. Mm-hmm. And tell me what, like, I know physical, it's like robots, but how does like physical and software AI, do they work together? Is there actual physical AI? Talk to me about that. When
we started Up Partners in 2020, we started an investment firm to focus on transportation. How do we move people and goods in more efficient ways around the world? What we've found as we've invested in these transportation technology companies is that the core enabling technologies all really tie back to physical AI. If you're talking about autonomy for Waymo or for electric vertical aircraft, it's basically the same key components that you need for a robot. You need to be able to sense and perceive the world. You need to be able to make sense of the world around you, make decisions about where you move. It doesn't matter if you're on the land, you're in the air, you're in space. It's all basically the same stuff. Yeah. So really the core area of technology we invest in is physical artificial intelligence. That's the operation of artificial intelligence driven machines in the physical world.
Okay.
And I think that we sort of caught onto that theme, or we were on the vanguard of that theme 5 years ago. The term physical AI didn't really show up until about a year ago. So the moniker kind of caught up to us. Okay. In fact, Jensen from NVIDIA at CES this January 2025, in his onstage presentation, showed this chart of the progress of AI. And it showed that physical AI was 10 times bigger than agentic AI, which is 10 times bigger than generative AI in terms of its impact on the world.
Right.
And that's really where we've been focused.
The flight training simulation you guys are doing, are you using a lot of that sort of technology in that company?
I'll give you an example there. Yeah, so that's a company called Loft Dynamics. Loft has the first FAA and EASA approved VR full motion flight simulator. started with helicopters for the Airbus H125 helicopter, and Loft has just secured its first order for a fixed wing simulator for the 737 MAX from Alaska Airlines.
Oh, wow.
So these simulators are really the best simulator I've ever flown. I've been in all kinds of level D sims at Flight Safety and CAE and Boeing. This is way higher fidelity than anything I've ever flown before. And one of the really core advances is that you're wearing a virtual reality headset. And so the simulator can track your eye movements and sees exactly where you're looking all the time.
Yeah.
They also have these pose tracking cameras in the simulator. So it's mapping your whole posture the whole time you're flying.
Oh, wow.
And so with all of that data about how the pilot is performing, they can determine how this pilot performs relative to other pilots in the cohort, and how is the pilot's physical actions impacting the performance of the aircraft operation. And so this can provide real-time feedback to the pilot and say, okay, if you did this a little bit differently, you would do it better, or this pilot who performs at 90 percentile of everybody in an auto rotation, for example, they do it like this, and you're doing it a little bit like this. It tells you what the differences are in very minute ways that a human flight instructor probably wouldn't pick up on.
Oh, that's wild.
So that's an example of taking this collective intelligence that's coming from how all pilots in the world are performing, and deriving insights to help train a specific pilot with AI.
So the simulator, it's a motion simulator, I'm assuming. How, like, describe? I haven't seen it. I want to go fly it at some point. But
we have one at Santa Monica Airport. Come try it.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah.
I'd love to try it. And each one is going to be a type specific, or will one simulator be able to do multiple types?
It's type specific because it has the real flight controls and all the buttons and switches. Yeah.
So you have the headset on, and then you have a normal cockpit.
Correct.
In the airplane.
Now the interesting thing, if you have a headset on, is you can't see the cockpit, right?
Right.
Because it's all VR. So all of the instruments are created in software in the headset. But when you reach out with your hands to, for example, set the altimeter or tune a radio, you're touching the actual knobs.
The
So
knob will be
the haptics are all totally correct. And the way that you see your hands is through these post tracking cameras in the simulator, creating a real time avatar of your body. So in the VR display, you see your body as an avatar. It looks like your real body. If I'm wearing short sleeves, it shows me having short sleeves and stuff.
Wow.
But you reach out and you touch that thing, and it really feels like it's right there, and it is. But this is a really good example of how technology can reduce cost. So instead of $15 or $20 or $25 million for a simulator, you can have a simulator for $4 million.
Yeah.
Qualified at the same level or even better.
Even better, yeah.
Because you don't need the actual avionics there. All the avionics are in simulation, right? So instead of buying these like factory boxes from Boeing, I can create it in simulation.
I mean, in a lot of cases, the simulator is as expensive to buy as the airplane. I mean, they're really, really expensive to build those things. And a lot of it, I guess with the VR goggles, a lot of it is the projection and the graphics around it. You don't need any of that anymore.
Right.
So it can be much smaller.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. So the footprint is very small compared to the simulators you're used to in a 3-story tall building and all of that. This can fit in a garage. You can have them anywhere. What I'm really excited about is really democratizing access to flight training. So if you're a young kid, again, you're interested in learning to fly, for less than the cost of renting a 172, you can get an hour in a 737 sim, full motion level D. You don't have to go to Flight Safety in Dallas or something.
Yeah.
It can be everywhere.
Flight training is so ridiculously expensive. Like when you start getting type ratings, especially in private jets. I mean, I think the new Global 7500, the type rating in that thing is like almost $200,000 now.
Insane.
It's crazy.
Insane. Yeah.
It's
because
crazy.
simulators are so scarce because they're so expensive.
Yeah.
But if we can make them less expensive,
I love that.
Same quality.
Do you guys envision like the airlines will buy like, hey, we're just going to buy our own sims instead of sending them to Flight Safety or CAE or some other training center?
And a lot of airlines already have their own sim centers. And but they're used to buying $20 million sims from CAE.
Yeah.
What if now they could buy $4 million sims? Like Alaska Airlines, for example, which is a launch customer for this simulator, they'll continue to have their main training hub in Seattle, but now they could also put simulators at their pilot bases. So let's say I'm based at LAX.
Yeah.
If I want to go do a couple hops, practice some emergency procedures or something, I don't need to go to Seattle. I can just go into my training base or my pilot base, do 2 hours in the sim and get up to speed on something.
And having that access to, we go to training every 6 months. We usually every year we'll do a big training event every year, and then every 6 months we'll do a small training event. And you kind of get rusty, to be totally honest. It's nice to get in a simulator more often.
Yeah.
I hadn't flown, I don't know if you know, but I didn't fly an airplane for almost 4 years.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was just so busy with my company, and I needed to just grind. And so I was flying on a regular basis, and I was kind of flying less and less and less. And I'm like, I started making mistakes. I'm like, I think I'm too distracted for work right now. I'm just going to step away from the airplane for a while. Went and got requalified in the G550, and it was, it took me a couple of days to really get back in it.
Yeah.
But it did.
Yeah.
I got back in it. I'm like, okay. But it would be nice to it would have been nice to just keep the skills up.
Totally. And now, there's a lot of pilots coming into the airline industry or corporate jet industry, but I've spoken to airlines recently about this, and they don't have the same skills they used to have because they have fewer hours. Mm-hmm. This is a whole strange effect of the 1,500-hour rule. Everybody thought pilots would have more experience, but actually they're getting into airlines with less experience.
Right.
Anyway, the problem is that there's a higher washout rate than there used to be. And the airlines don't have enough capacity in their simulators to help pilots that need extra help. Yeah. So they just wash them out. Mm-hmm. But if they had a little extra capacity, hey, you're struggling with some crosswind landings in the MD-11. Let's say it's a hard airplane to do crosswind landings in.
Is it?
you can go and practice on your own in the simulator. It's not expensive. You can do it self-service. You don't need an instructor.
Yeah.
Bone up on your crosswind landings, then come back to the level D sim.
Well, what's interesting about what you just said was the pilots coming into commercial aviation right now have a very different path than from my generation and most generations, and specifically like the challenging operations, right? They go right from flight instructing, maybe right into a regional, right? So they maybe 1,000 hours and they're in a regional jet, and they never had the opportunity to fly the Ameriflight Beech 1900 single pilot in shitty weather and, an absolute piece of crap airplane, right? I flew King Airs for years, single pilot, PC-12 years, single pilot. Got into jet, single pilot. I did all and most people with our background, they did a lot of that kind of flying before they ever got into a commercial operation, or a airline type situation. A lot of the pilots have skipped this important step in your development.
Yeah.
And they're having to adapt to it, I guess.
The other interesting thing that's happened is the upgrade time from being an airline first officer to an airline captain is shorter than it used to be. Yeah. Because the 1,500-hour rule meant that there was a big shortage for a long time. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the captains, retired, and now all of these very inexperienced co-pilots were coming in as captains. So, the airline flying business used to be sort of an apprenticeship business. Yeah. You would be in the right seat of an airplane for 3-4 years and really learn the ropes before you got upgraded. Now it could be a year or two. Right. And so, case in point, we really could benefit from a lot more simulation. If you had more simulation, you could do a lot more scenario-based training. Yeah. You could, the Toronto CRJ landing accident recently, I don't know if you remember that. Mm-hmm. These two pilots were perfectly qualified, but had relatively little recent experience or relatively little total experience. And they're landing with a strong crosswind with blowing snow. Yeah. And from landing on runways with blowing snow, it can be very deceiving. Mm-hmm. Your height above the runway it's very hard to figure out. Yeah. But what if you had practiced that scenario dozens of times in the simulator before you ever attempted that landing in Toronto?
Another one, we train, and we go into Aspen a lot. So we do specific Aspen training in the sim, and it's very handy, really handy. I did a departure out of Aspen and lost an engine. It was a high and hot day in the sim. They cut the engine, and it was tricky. Yeah. It was like barely making it over that mountain. Totally.
That's good to practice. You don't want the first time to be when it actually happens.
Exactly. What do you think about standardization in training? This has always been a pet peeve of mine. Every single, at least in the Part 135 and the 121 world, every single airline or charter operator in the country has a different training program. Mm-hmm. They're different. Yeah. And even though they're different, but they're the same, right? I don't understand for the life of me why we just don't have a training this is how you fly a 737 from Boeing. Here's how you fly our airplane. This is how we designed it. This is how you fly it. And every single airline pilot in the world that flies that airplane has gone through that training program.
Why is it that we have 35,000 police agencies in America and they all have different training programs? Or every fire truck, it looks different. I mean, I love firefighters, but why is it that the Santa Monica fire trucks look different than the Culver City fire trucks? I don't know. I think it's just because people have preferences. You know, the chief pilot there says, you know, this is how I like doing things. And
in our world, you know, we get, you know, pilots move from company to company all the time, and it's pretty common. And we'll get a guy that's flown Gulfstreams forever, and then we pair him when he's a flight safety guy, and then we pair him with a CAE guy, and they're talking different languages. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh my God, pick one, guys. Yes. You know, so what we've had to do, we have to build very, very company specific SOPs, and we have to give those SOPs to the training center, and we got to like make sure they're being followed, and our crews are doing it. And I think it's one of those things in safety that I think we could easily implement, and it would make things better.
Yeah.
You know, and it wouldn't cost anymore. It just, you know, and I think when you mentioned like the chief pilot likes to do certain things this way, ego is always part of it too.
Yeah. I think now with this simulation technology, we have an opportunity to start much earlier in a trainee pilot's career to get them standardized on how you fly a big airplane. You go through 1,500 hours of flying in a 172 with your student in the left seat doing touch and goes, and you're just watching them do touch and goes. Yeah. That doesn't really prepare you for an airline pilot career. But what if you could fly, and this is going to sound really crazy, but what if you could do 1,000 out of your 1,500 hours in a 737 sim? And every one of those hours, you're flying airline procedures in a crew environment. You know, we'd create the best airline pilots there ever been.
100%. I totally agree. 100%. Have you ever gone to like one of the training centers and they call them right seaters?
Yeah.
It's just a kid that he has like 500 hour, not even that, 50 hours, not even a private pilot's license, and they hire him to sit in the right seat of the sim. They are the best partners.
Totally.
Because all they do is sit in that sim and run emergency procedures all day.
Yeah.
And they know exactly where the check, they know here's what is in the checklist.
Muscle memory.
Do you want me to do this, Captain? Yep, do that. And they literally do everything for you.
Yeah.
And they're the best. So whenever I go, I'm like, you got any right seaters for me? Because they make your job as a pilot flying so much easier.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, you put those people in there and just run them through like that. Kids want to do that anyways.
Totally.
Like they want to be on. This is like the ultimate video game.
Right.
Who's gonna not want to sit in this thing and just fly it all the time?
Yeah.
You know.
And you could practice so much. I mean, if you had the luxury of 1,000 hours in a simulator, I mean, you could do a 6-hour loft mission from LA to Hawaii. You would never do that in, you know, flight safety or CE right now because the time is too precious.
Yeah.
But now you could actually go halfway to Hawaii, have a depressurization, and fly the rest of the way 10,000 feet and see what that's like the pucker factor of.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly. So, you know, it's funny years ago when we were doing our overwater qualifications for worldwide operations, we had to do a flight over to Europe and we had to do a flight out to Hawaii to do North Atlantic, and we had to demonstrate we could do this, right? So FAA is on board, and I actually rallied to do it in the sim, and I for that very reason, I'm like, look, if you do it in the sim, we can demonstrate everything. I can go rent the sim for the day, and you can observe us doing everything. We can have a diversion, you know, and we can actually we can if we have a depressurization or a medical or an engine failure, we can actually operate it and demonstrate. And the FAA is just like, nope, you got to actually do it. It made no sense to me, but that's what they made us do.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, the first time I ever flew a long flight over the water was to Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And the first time I had ever flown a long flight over the water was to Hawaii. You know, I had no idea.
Right.
Well, I was with a really experienced captain, thankfully, that had done it a million times. But we talked a little bit about pilotless aircraft. Speaking of technology, I wanted to talk to you about, get your thoughts on kind of future technology and propulsion. Mm-hmm. We have one type of propulsion for everything right now, right? We burn gas, some sort of fossil fuel for every mission we do. We're starting to get into electricity for the kind of the last mile mobility. Give me your thoughts on kind of this last mile mobility, short haul flights. So here up to Santa Barbara, than the long haul stuff?
Well, for short haul, I think battery electric will work. Batteries are getting better each year, even without new discoveries in chemistry. So it's typically about 7% per year compounding improvement in battery energy density. So the range for example, the Beta Alea, which is the aircraft we're invested in, the fixed wing version is going to be able to go 150 plus miles out of the gates. It's going to get up to 250 or 300 miles.
That's there's just battery.
Just battery. Yeah.
And then would they swap the battery on landing?
You can swap the battery, or you can fast charge it. So
okay.
Yeah, you can fast charge them in under an hour, just like a Tesla.
Really?
Yeah. That's amazing. So I think that's going to be great for LA, Santa Barbara type flying, or even further a little bit. Beyond that, you either need to look at hybrid electric, where you have some kind of a generator. It's probably going to be a turbine engine burning jet fuel or diesel or something like that.
Yeah.
Or you start looking at other alternative fuels like hydrogen. And hydrogen has high energy density by weight, but not by volume.
Oh.
So you need big voluminous tanks, to hold this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so today's airplanes aren't really designed for that.
Yeah.
But there are new aircraft designs being developed that will be suitable to hold a lot of hydrogen.
Yeah. So, there's a startup over in Venice. What's that company called?
Beyond Aero.
Beyond Aero, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the designs of their concepts, and they look kind of weird.
Yeah.
Big winglets, like huge bulbous winglets.
Right. To put the tanks.
Hydrogen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things like that. Or there's a company in Long Beach called Jet Zero that's building a blended wing body airliner, which will initially run on jet fuel, but eventually it has the cabin volume to replace that with hydrogen tanks that could move the aircraft. Just to give you an example to think about, Airbus A350, which typically has 18 hours range or something like that.
Yeah.
If you filled all of its wing tanks, fuel tanks with hydrogen, it could fly the distance from LA to Seattle.
Oh, really?
So 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Not bad. It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
But you need a big giant airplane to be able to do that.
Okay.
So I think hydrogen is a possibility. It requires a lot of new infrastructure to be built because we don't have hydrogen fueling infrastructure at most airports.
Yeah.
So that's challenging.
And can they generate the hydrogen on site at these? Could they put like hydrogen generation?
Yeah.
Facilities? Yeah.
You could. All you need is water and electricity.
Yeah. Right. I always think about I feel like the hybrid, building power, or producing power on board seems to be like a good starting point for the long range stuff, right?
Yeah.
Electric motors with like a modified APU with a really efficient generator or something on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Creating the power.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of concepts like that. I think they hold a lot of promise. We have a dear friend actually that started a company called Astromechanica. This is a little bit of a diversion, but along the same lines, he's developed a propulsion system that is adaptive through the speed cycle. So when you start slow, at slow speed, electric propulsion is the most efficient way to go.
Yeah.
And then as you accelerate, jet propulsion becomes viable and necessary to accelerate.
Yeah.
And then at very high speeds, you need a rocket to accelerate further.
Mm-hmm.
So he's developed an engine that is this adaptive cycle engine.
Really?
Yeah. And it turns out that turning a compressor on the front of a jet engine, we do that today by spinning turbine wheels in the back of the jet engine, right?
Yep.
You combust fuel in the combustion chamber, and then those hot gases go through the turbine that spins the compressor. But that's not the most efficient way to spin the compressor. The more efficient way to spin the compressor is to use an electric motor.
Oh.
So his adaptive cycle engine uses a electric motor to spin the compressor and certain bypasses so that at high speed you bypass the compressor altogether and it just turns into a ramjet basically.
Wow.
So yeah, that is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And I think as we look at a future for hypersonic aircraft, for example, that will fly above Mach 3, in order for an airplane like that to fit into the existing system we have operating at airports with gates and taking off on runways,
Yeah.
Something like that adaptive cycle engine makes a lot of sense.
This is why I brought you on. Brad. This is like the kind of stuff we need to know about. You're kind of the hypersonic focus. You think that's where the future is going to be?
I think hypersonic is going to leapfrog supersonic. Supersonic aircraft have been around for quite some time now.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of innovation to be done there. I think the aerodynamics are pretty well figured out. The way the engines work is pretty well figured out.
Yeah.
And we understand the economics of supersonic. It's difficult to get ticket prices low enough that it makes sense for a normal airline passenger.
Yeah.
It also has range limitations. You can't really fly that far supersonic.
Right.
But hypersonic, if you can get up way above the atmosphere and go anywhere on the planet very quickly, I think that has a lot more potential in the future.
This is basically like a rocket or some sort of version of a rocket, whether it takes off like a normal airplane or launches vertically, flies up in the upper atmospheres, shuts the engine off, and basically does an orbital arc, right?
Right.
And then turn the engines back on and land.
Exactly.
That is rad.
Yeah.
I want to do that. That is so cool. I mean, you literally could go anywhere on the planet in an hour or less.
Hour or less. Limiting factor is going to be passenger comfort. Like, how many G's are you willing to accept on acceleration and deceleration?
Yeah.
And I've done some math on that previously. And if you sustain like 2 G's, if you're okay sustaining 2 G's, probably in a 45-degree reclined seat for comfort.
Yeah.
I think you can get anywhere on Earth in like 45 minutes or so.
2 G's is it? That's it?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem that bad.
It's not that bad, but for an extended period of time, it's not super comfortable for normal people.
Would you go weightless though?
Yeah, for a time, you'd have 2 G's of acceleration and a little bit of weightlessness, and then 2 G's of deceleration as you slow down to land.
How much would that cost? Would it be significantly more than an airliner doing that same flight?
Time will tell.
So that A350 going to Singapore versus your hypersonic.
I think it's a little bit difficult to predict.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for you, but I think it will be cheaper than supersonic.
Yeah. That's cool. It's really amazing, like the range airplanes have now. Like, it's shocking. That you mentioned the A350. I go surfing in Indonesia every year, and I specifically take the A350 on Singapore because I just love that flight.
Yeah.
And you're on the flight 17 hours in the air. It's wild.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. People they don't want that long a flight, but I'm like, I absolutely love it.
I'd much rather do that than stop.
So you and I both learned to fly in Santa Monica Airport, and I feel a passion for that airport. Probably not at your level, but it's a romantic thing for me. I learned to fly there. I taught there for years. I lived near it, and it's such a cool resource.
Yeah.
And they're trying to take it away.
Hope should not be lost. We have a great opportunity to not only keep the airport, but make it much, much better. The history is incredible there. A lot of people don't know that the first airplanes to fly around the world took off from Santa Monica Airport in 1924. The airplanes that dropped the paratroopers on D-Day to end World War II were built at Santa Monica Airport. All the DC-3s were built at Santa Monica Airport.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, all the way through the DC-7, the last of the piston-powered airliners were built in Santa Monica. And then the Douglas Aircraft Company moved to Long Beach at the start of the jet age with the DC-8. Wow. So we have a lot of aerospace innovation heritage in Santa Monica. Mm-hmm. And I think that we can use that heritage to inspire the next generation of innovators in aerospace, but also in transportation, in science and technology more generally, even in design and art. There's so much energy in that history.
Yeah.
And so over the last few years, we've been inviting the Santa Monica community to come out to the airport and really discover what it's all about. And each year we host an event. We have thousands of people come out. We show them the future of electric aviation. We get them involved with aircraft development. We have a new flight school there that's doing a build-a-plane program with kids.
Oh, cool.
We have all kinds of neat stuff going on. And the community is really starting to fall in love with the airport again. And so for me, I think it's all about a grassroots effort to enhance the value of these resources, not just Santa Monica, but I think this should be an example for other airports to follow around the country, especially like now, right on the cusp of this electric aviation future.
Yeah.
It's exactly the wrong time to close an airport.
Right. Especially where Santa Monica is.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that neighbors, I was a neighbor. I am still a neighbor of the airport. My parents are even closer than I am now, but airplanes have been noisy. Airplanes have put out a lot of soot and it's understandable that neighbors would complain about that.
Yeah.
But now with electric aviation, it gets rid of all that. They're silent, non-polluting, and perhaps most importantly, they're going to be so inexpensive for people to use. You can just show up at the airport, pay $50, get an electric airplane flight to Santa Barbara, San Diego, Palm Springs. It's going to be amazing. General aviation airports are public airports.
Right.
The problem is that relatively few people use them.
Mm-hmm.
But now we can really make them community airports. They can be for everybody.
I think that is such a great use case for Santa Monica. Like, make Santa Monica the prototype of what the future could look like, and the general aviation serving the community, right? That's why general aviation exists in the first place. I never really understood why people move next to an airport and then complain. I mean, there's not one person that lives at that airport that was there when the airport was built.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and a lot of the houses were built by Donald Douglas to house employees of the Douglas Aircraft Company. The house I grew up in was one of those.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. So
I
Douglas built the city.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
And I think that, Santa Monica, it's like a city center. It could be, and like there's a park right there.
Yeah.
And, if you make it more open to accessible and visible too. Like every airport like that should have a park next to it. Think about that. Kids going to the park, watching airplanes, we wouldn't have a pilot problem.
We want to make the airport, we use the word permeable. We want to make it more integrated with the whole community. Yeah. Of course, you need to have certain areas that are secure because it's not safe to walk near propellers and stuff. But the closer we can allow the community to interact with everything else happening on the airport and to be a part of it, the better. Running trails, botanical gardens, entertainment venues, restaurants, coffee shops, bars, schools. Yeah. All of that should be there.
So who's driving that at Santa Monica now? I mean, I'm assuming you're part of a community board.
Yeah. We've got a bunch of folks that are volunteering to support this, and a bunch of other organizations that are not interested in the airport at all, but just folks that live in the city and think it's important to preserve the airport as a home for innovation, inspiration, disaster recovery, all that stuff. So it's a pretty broad effort. Lots of people pitching in and making a difference.
Like emergency, like I think one of the things the community doesn't understand is that resources needed when there's natural disasters.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Up in Santa Barbara, we had really bad wildfires and then a really rainy season that followed, and we had floods. Yeah. And it literally took out a community in Santa Barbara and closed us off. They completely covered the 101, the highway, and the railroad tracks. So Santa Barbara, we were cut off. Yep. And they had a lot of the hospital there was, most of their employees lived down in Ventura, couldn't get to work. Yep. We had high impact, a lot of injured people, a lot of deaths because of the slide. It was just like this perfect storm. And all of a sudden, boom, we're cut off. Right. And, you got to think about that kind of stuff in a community.
Totally.
Right. And what we ended up doing was, we got a hold of we actually did it through Cottage Hospital in Santa Barbara. Like, hey, we got airplanes. And so we dedicated a G4 to Cottage Hospital for a few days, like until they got the road open, or a road access open. But we were flying people back and forth from Oxnard to Santa Barbara.
No way. Wow.
Yeah. Just to like get workers there. We had one woman came into my office. She came into my office one day. This is months later, and she said, "I just wanted to thank you for everything you did. I had no idea what I did." Right? And she's like, "Well, I work at Cottage Hospital, and my husband was in Ventura, and she was pregnant at the time during this whole thing, and she had the baby. Her husband couldn't get there.
Wow.
She had the baby in the hospital, and then we ended up flying her and her baby back to Oxnard in the plane." And it was just a really cool story. And I kind of forgot about that till just now. But communities need to understand that these airports are a lifeline if stuff goes down.
I think the January Palisades fire was a big wake-up call for people. Yeah. We had several firefighting helicopters flying out of Santa Monica Airport. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the fixed-wing airplanes couldn't because the runway's too short. So they were operating out of Camarillo and Van Nuys, which is a little bit further from the fires, made them a little less effective. But at least we were able to have the helicopters operating there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, imagine another big earthquake that could, cut off the freeways. Yeah. We just had a tsunami warning with this earthquake in Russia. Yeah. If we have a big tsunami, I mean, it's as we talk about climate resiliency with climate change coming now, it's not just about finding ways to reduce the impact of our greenhouse gas emissions on the climate, but how do we protect our communities and prepare for recovering from a climate disaster? Yeah. And an airport is one of the best resources we can have.
For sure. It's an iconic place. Yeah. There's history there. People have to honor that, they really need to honor that a little bit. So, what can we do to help?
Well, first thing, realize that the story's not over. Okay. I think the press has reported quite often that Santa Monica Airport is closing at the end of 2028. That's not the case. Okay. The city has the option to close the airport, but not the obligation to close the airport. Got it. So keep hope alive. That's my first ask. All right. My second is whenever you have an opportunity to tell the story of Santa Monica Airport to your friends, your neighbors, whether they live in the area or not, let's start to celebrate the amazing things that are happening at not just Santa Monica, but all community airports in the country. And let's inspire people to realize that the future of electric aviation is going to bring so many more people to our general aviation airports.
Yeah, for sure.
And we, as the people who are already in this industry, all the people listening to your podcast that are pilots or mechanics or air traffic controllers, we have such a great opportunity ahead of us to open this world of general aviation generally to everybody. Yeah. So let's take that mantle and do what we can to make this accessible for everyone.
Awesome, Ben. This has been really fun, man.
Great to see you.
I love talking to you. You're such a smart guy, and I just have been a huge fan of yours ever since we've known each other, and you've been a good friend, and this has been fun, man.
It's been great.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Hopefully, I can convince you to do some aerobatics with me.
I don't know about that. We'll see. Okay. All right, bud.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Good to see you.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Flight Club podcast. Please subscribe to the show, leave a comment below, and follow us on Instagram at Flight Club Pod. We'll see you next time.